Welcome to Talkin' Waukesha, the podcast where every conversation springs to life.
I'm Andrew Nofke.
And I'm Anthony Terrell.
And we're your hosts for today's journey into the heart of Waukesha.
Whether you're a local or just passing through, join us as we explore the stories, people, and hidden gems that make Waukesha truly special.
From community events to personal anecdotes, we're here to bring you the pulse of our vibrant town.
So grab your favorite beverage, sit back, and let's dive into another episode of Talkin' Waukesha,
where every conversation springs to life. Welcome back to another episode of Talkin' Waukesha. Today we're here with Lukas Hallmark, who is a detective with the Waukesha Police Department. Welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So to start off, could you start by telling us a little bit about yourself, your experience with the Waukesha PD, and how often you encounter fraud-related cases, since that's kind of your bread and butter with the PD, if I know right?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct. That would be my kind of expertise. I do a lot of white collar scams, frauds, that type of thing. That's mainly my caseload at the police department now. But yeah, I was able to start my career 18 years ago at the police department here in the city of Waukesha. Mm-hmm. It's been a great 18 years. I started initially as a night shift patrol officer. A lot of times people will be like, well, I just want to go to law enforcement and be a detective, or I want to be, X, Y, and Z. Well, unfortunately, you got to start off.
Got to do your
working.
time to work your way up.
Start somewhere.
You got to start somewhere, and that's usually always on night shift patrol. But it's great because you get to interact with folks. Mm-hmm. You get to work the streets. You get to see everything from a different perspective. So it's great. But yeah, I did that for a couple of years. Then I was able to move up to a community police officer. We had a CPU unit working with community engagements, different community events, things of that nature. Spent a couple of years doing that. From there, I transitioned to an SRO, worked as the school resource officer over at Waukesha West High School for a couple of years. Mm-hmm. That was really neat. It was an eye-opening experience. Got to interact with folks from education, worked with students. I really enjoyed my time there. And from there, I was able to get promoted in 2016 as a detective. Worked general crimes for a couple of years as a detective. I really enjoy being able to sit down and investigate crimes. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that kind of I started to lean into was financial cases. And then from there, it was right around 2019 that I was able to get deputized on the Secret Service Cybercrimes Task Force. And what that really means is I'm able to work with federal partners, the U.S. Attorney's Office, Secret Service, their investigative unit, their agents, and we're able to kind of primarily focus on financial crimes on a more larger level, right? So we have the ability to use different resources than we would at a local level. So I can tap into different resources that the federal government would be able to allow us to do. So ever since 2019, I've been on that task force. And again, like I stated before, main focus right now is the financial crimes, fraud, scams, embezzlement, crimes against financial institutions, forgery, ID theft. Those are kind of my bread and butter that I do on a daily basis.
So because you're on that task force, does that mean you're working on Waukesha and kind of surrounding area kind of thing? So if they need an assistant, they could reach out to you and say, hey, we need something over in Wauwatosa or whatever jurisdiction?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So we're focused out of the Eastern District of Wisconsin. So if you can imagine Wisconsin, there's kind of a line that goes from the north to the south. And the U.S. Attorney's Office in Milwaukee is based out of the Eastern District. So if you have if you have a city or a complaint or an issue on the Eastern District of Wisconsin, we're able to reach out. If someone reaches out to us, we're able to assist. And that does happen quite a bit, where we're able to help folks out in those jurisdictions, yes.
Interesting.
So was it more of like a calling to you, or did you more seek out to do kind of these fraud things, or was it a little combination of both of them?
Well, I think if you would have asked me in high school that I was going to be a detective, I'd say you're crazy, right? And then if you would have told me when I started to be a cop on night shift that I'd probably be a detective doing financial crimes, I'd be like, you're absolutely crazy. It's not something I'm really interested in. To your question, I think it was more of it was a calling. Like I just was led to that position. Mm-hmm. It wasn't something that I actually went out and went and seeked to find, or hey, I had this in the back of my head, I want to do this in the future. It was more something like I was drawn to it, and it kind of just naturally occurred.
Okay. Do you just need to have a different mindset to kind of work on the financial crime versus other crime as a detective then?
Well, it's funny because I talked to other detectives like, oh gosh, I could never do what you do. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason is it it's a lot more time consuming. It takes more time. And I think we'll get into that as the podcast goes on. But I think that's one of the main things that happens as a financial crimes detective is that you spend a lot more time looking at really specific details, and you kind of got to go a little bit more in the weeds with things, opposed to some of the other crimes where it might come a little quicker, a little bit easier to find out exactly what's occurring.
So what are the most common fraud schemes you see targeting residents in our community?
Yeah, and I can say over the last 18 years, I think we've seen an increase in frauds and scams, and I think that has to do with technology. But some of the biggest things that we've seen nowadays, right now, that's really common is like the Microsoft pop-up window scams, along with the romance scams. Those seem to be kind of the main two complaints that we get at the police department quite often. It's not to say that there's other scams and frauds occurring, but right now we are seeing a lot of those, and a lot of those are occurring big losses to our citizens.
Sure.
So with those, I guess, could you delve a little bit into what those kind of crimes entail?
Yeah, so like with the Microsoft pop-up scam, what typically happens is at some point there's a resident or a victim that maybe clicks on something, an email or spam that they get on their computer. It infects something in their computer. And then at some point, while they're on their device or their computer, they'll get a giant pop-up on their computer. And it'll be a giant red flashing light. There'll be noises, alerts, and they can't really click out of it. And on there, they'll have like a number, a telephone number to call. And then they'll call that number, and that's kind of where the scam starts, right? But the pop-up will actually say that, hey, this is Microsoft. We need you to call this number. Your computer's infected. So in order to relieve or to like fix the solution, they're telling these victims that, hey, you need to call this number. And from there, they'll try to influence, or they'll portray that they are the good people. And then in order to do that, you need to pay X, Y, and Z, which in reality, that's not the case.
Right.
Yeah.
And then in those cases, are you then trying to find the bad people doing that, or are you just trying to help them, like the residents, kind of get back what they lost? Or is it a combination of it all?
A little combination of both,
Sure.
right? And the frustrating part is when it comes to like the email spam and the people that are infecting devices and computers, in my investigations, it's very, very challenging and almost impossible to try to figure out exactly who is actually doing that, because it might not be a specific person. It could be like they have bots, right?
Yeah,
that could do that, right? So maybe there's some other country where they have this whole organization set up to infect computers, right? So that in itself is difficult. And I've said this numerous times in doing some sort of investigation, is that we always follow the money, right? So when it comes to me and my investigation, where I like to delve into is, okay, the victim fell for this scam. They sent the money. Now we need to follow the money to figure out, okay, who are part of the perpetrators, right? A lot of the money might not go back to the person that infiltrated the spam or the scam on the computer, but at some point there lies a suspect that benefited from this money, and we're trying to identify who that is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So kind of a pseudo money laundering. It may go to an account, sit there for a few months, go to other accounts, and then it'll eventually reach someone. It's kind of the cinema version of it.
Yeah, exactly. Not a few months. And it's surprising how fast money moves nowadays. And it makes our job a little more challenging to try to figure out where the money is because of how fast it moves nowadays.
Sure.
Yeah.
Is it like sending it through Venmo, sending it through pay channels and different things, and it's just
You got it
changes
peer-to-peer.
hands so much.
Yep, peer-to-peer, cryptocurrency, different like wires, like wire transfers, ACH, that type of thing. So yeah, it goes really quick.
Sure. Do you deal with a lot of cryptocurrency now that that's becoming more?
We do.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially with the pop-up of all these different cryptocurrency ATMs everywhere.
Yeah.
The folks that deal a lot with technology, right? Those folks were the ones that were dealing with the cryptocurrency. You didn't really see grandma and grandpa saying like, yeah, I'm going to send Bitcoin, right? But now with the invention of these Bitcoin ATMs and QR codes, it's very simple for someone to give instructions to someone, say, hey, I need you to deposit $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 into this cryptocurrency ATM. Here's the QR code. All you got to do is show up there with your cash, and you're just depositing the money, and it's super easy.
Yeah.
Right. So yes, and then
they've made ransomware heck of a lot easier, it seems now, of, oh yeah, pay us the X number of Bitcoin and
yes,
you can get your information back.
Yes. And some people might know this, but maybe a lot of people don't, is that with cryptocurrency wallets is that there's not like know your customer information. There's not like an actual person where we can identify to a specific wallet. There's just a wallet number, and it's just out there and exists. Yeah, we can trace it to that wallet, but to try to figure out who owns that wallet or who's controlling that wallet is very difficult. The only way that we can actually do that is at some point there needs to be an exchange. And a lot of those exchanges take place at platforms that don't occur in this country.
Sure.
So if a scammer says, hey, victim, I want you to go deposit $3,000 at this Bitcoin ATM down the street, and the victim does that, and they give a QR code to some wallet, what happens is the victim will input that money. That money will go to 1, 2, 3 different wallets, maybe a tumbler where the money is going to get scattered around. And at some point, it's going to go to an exchange where the suspect's going to want to get the money out. But if they use an exchange where the exchange company, doesn't respond to U.S. legal process, there's really no way for us to know who did that.
Right.
Yeah. So
you can requisition anything all you want, but they're not going to listen at that point. They've got no authority to
precisely
respond.
Yeah. So I will say though that there are great companies that we do deal with here in the U.S. That are cryptocurrency based, that are very responsive to law enforcement, that are very, very helpful. So I'm not going to sit here and say that all cryptocurrency companies are bad. There's a lot of good that can come from it. It's just the fact that nowadays we used to think that cryptocurrency was only involved in those that knew what they were doing in the financial world. It's now turned to like it's an easy method and an easy way to transfer fraud funds
until it gets a little more regulated, a little more well regulated at least. It's getting a little better, but it's still the great unknown of money.
And I will say too that I am not. I'm a novice when it comes to cryptocurrency. I know just enough to kind of investigate and reach out to the people that know a lot more than I do to help me out. But it's one of those things that we always have a lot more to learn.
Do you have a favorite cryptocurrency that you've come across so far? That just seems like that's a weird name for one.
No.
Okay.
But along those lines, I mean, like one of my favorite companies to kind of work with is like Coinbase. I think that there's a lot of positive, a lot of good things that come from that. And then when we reach out to them for information with the legal process, like a subpoena or search warrant, they got great information. I wish a lot of companies in the U.S. would kind of follow their method of how they obtain documents. One of the things that I think is great, and I think that all financial institutions and all like places that are like exchange for money would do, that Coinbase does, is that it's kind of like Airbnb, right? So like if you want to go on their platform, they make you take a photo of your ID, and then they also make you take a photo of you, right? So like, well, that is you. Yep. We know that. We can show like through AI that the photo matches the photo identification card that you took a picture of matches the face of the photo. If we could implement that everywhere.
And you say, I've seen that more and more, and it's such like, it's a bit of a pain sometimes, but a lot of the time it just makes sense. Like I think I've done that for, it might have even been the DMV at one point. It's just like, take a photo of you, take a photo of your ID. And I think even for like registering to vote, that's their new implementation is, in order to register to vote, you put up your ID next to your face on a webcam, and that verifies that you're you, and you can actually request your absentee ballot that way or whatever you're needing to do.
I feel like we can eliminate the fact of people opening fraudulent accounts under your name less.
Yeah.
It would eliminate fraud, I think, a little bit more.
Yeah, and it seems like there's more and more companies out there that are like, we deal in this sensitive data. We know how to secure it. We know how to keep it, FedRAMP certified. We keep it inside the continental U.S. and all that kind of stuff. So
we have all this technology nowadays, right? But then I'll talk about the next common scam that we see is checks. Like, right? So like we live in this world of technology and cryptocurrency, and money moves super fast, but then we're still using stamps and throwing a piece of paper with $1,000 check on it in the mail. Yeah. Hoping that it gets to the location it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
So a lot of times what we see nowadays, I mean, this has been happening for years. And this is the one scam that I feel like it's never going to go away unless checks go away, is that someone will put a check in the mail and then at some point it gets stolen. It gets stolen in the mail. Like we've had numerous cases where we'll have folks from out of the state, out of the city, not local individuals. They'll come up and they'll target specific locations, usually sometimes residences, but more likely than not, they'll actually target business parks. And then they'll go through and they'll find the mailboxes that are not locked, and they'll just pillage the mailboxes. And they're just throwing all the mail in the mailbox. I mean, these businesses might have, 15, 20 pieces of mail, what have you, and they'll just throw it in their car, they'll put it in a bag, and then they'll take it back to where they're from. And then what they're going to do is they'll get back, they'll open these envelopes, and they'll find these checks. And on this check is an account number and a routing number. Like, which bank this account number belongs to. And it has usually the business's name and or the individual on there.
And a signature probably of someone who's authorizing this check to be sent out.
Exactly. And so we see that quite often. And a lot of times folks will, I don't want to give out too much information how these scammers are doing this, but it's like, I feel like small businesses, medium-sized businesses, down to individuals, I think one of the things that we can do to kind of prevent these types of scams happening is that please do not send checks through the mail. I know it might be a little bit harder to figure out a different method of payment, but you can probably do yourself a little bit of good by not putting checks in the mail.
I think most banks now have some sort of e-check that's free to a certain degree, and you can transfer funds from one account to another. Yes, you have to kind of know the other person's account numbers, but it's a progress. It's progress at least.
And then if there's a business listening to this podcast, one thing I'd encourage them too is that if they say like, well, no, unfortunately, we have to do this, like this is our policy. One of the things that's really beneficial that I see quite often is positive pay. That's one of the things that most financial institutions will have you pay for. It might be a monthly fee, but I've seen it happen more times than not where a small business will not have positive pay. And after I do my investigation, after we've gone through the situation where they become a victim, they're like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have done positive pay, months ago. I mean, yes, it's a little bit more work. It's a little more money, but we know for a fact that if one of our checks get compromised, if it gets stolen, if it gets altered or forged, that the bank is going to reimburse, or the bank or the financial institution will actually catch it when it's trying to be deposited on positive pay. So that's
is it like an insurance program kind of a thing, or is it just
no? Usually, what happens is from my understanding on my end, again, I've never been the business doing it, but from what I've been explained to me is that once the business gets positive pay, that every check that they write, they have to note the check number, who it's to, the exact amount, right? And so and then they submit that to the bank when the check is issued. So if they mail it, let's say it gets intercepted, someone forges it and they erase the pay to the order. So like, let's say they change it from, it's supposed to go to, let's say ABC Builders, right? And then someone deletes that and they change it to whatever, Bob Smith, and Bob Smith tries to cash it. Positive pay will show like, no, this check number was issued to ABC Builders. We're not going to allow that to be deposited to Bob Smith. They didn't have positive pay. They probably would have just issued it, right? They would have deposited and they would have issued those funds to Bob Smith. And then what will happen is 2-3 months down the road, ABC will be like, hey, we didn't get your payment. And they're like, well, no, I sent that like 3 months ago and it was taken out of our account. And then they look back and they go, oh no, that was deposited into Bob Smith's account. And then they come to us. We're already 2, 3, 4 months behind the ball. And it's very difficult to try to figure out, now we got to find your money. We got to figure out who did this.
Yeah. And now Bob Smith has already cashed out and ran out of town. So.
Right. Yeah. And a lot of times these folks that do these crimes, they're not from our jurisdiction. So, I mean, I would say almost 90 to 95% of the folks that we investigate for these types of offenses, not in our jurisdiction, not Waukesha citizens. I would say also a very high percentage that are not even in the state. So it makes our job a little bit more challenging. It's not to say that we can't do it. It's just harder.
Yeah. So with so much communication happening online and by phone, what are some of the red flags and emails, texts, and calls that residents could recognize to keep them aware and safe from being a victim of fraud?
Yeah, that's also a really good question. I would say like just don't anything you get is just considered a scam. Like that'd be my easiest way to say like just avoid it all, right? If you get an email, unless you know it's going to be from a reputable company that you've had communication with before, just consider everything that you get that you're not expecting to be a scam. And it's so easy nowadays with these scammers. Like, for an example, an email from the city of Waukesha because of it's that time of the year to renew something or you had to renew a license or something like that, right? All the scammer has to do is they can take the domain, but then just add something onto it. So you're like, at waukesha-wi.gov dot something, right? Right. All they have to do is add something onto it. They can own that domain. They can send that out to individuals, and it'll make it look like it's actually from the city of Waukesha, right? So yes, just assume everything you get is a scam. Some of the red flags, some of the things that you can actually look at inside of an email or a text message is like just grammar. A lot of times these folks that are sending these scam emails or spam emails out are from different countries, and sometimes they're using translator to do it. Sometimes they're just using their own knowledge to write these emails in English, but and they'll try to be overly nice, right? So like if you see an email that says like, we kindly ask you to do something, like I'm going to kindly not. Like, we're not going to send you money.
Is someone kindly doing something from an email?
Yeah, exactly. Emails that are usually like official, it's kind of just straight to the point. They don't have a lot of that extra grammar in there. So look for punctuation that's incorrect, things to that nature. Never respond to like hyperlinks or telephone numbers that are also included in an email. So like if an email sends you something and says like, here, click here to log into this, don't do it. Exit out of the email, go to the actual URL that you know to be accurate and correct. Start there. Same thing with telephone numbers too, because it's really easy to spoof a telephone number. It's really easy for folks to just say, hey, like call this number, and then they're just routed to a call center that's just a giant scam center. So never trust a telephone number or an email or hyperlink within an email that you suspect to be fraud. So grammar, punctuation, and quite honestly, just assume everything's a scam unless you can prove otherwise.
Yeah, really. I think the only other thing you haven't mentioned is anything that makes you feel afraid or like something needs to be done now. Yeah,
that like everything's urgent. Like it needs to be done exactly right now. And then a lot of times, yes, you bring up a great point, because one of the main common themes that we see with these scams, especially with these Microsoft scams, is that once they get hooked into these victims, once the scam has been kind of perpetrated and it's been going on for a while, and they're to the point where the victim is going to be spending or sending quite a bit of money, these scammers will stay on the phone with these victims for hours. Like they're like, let's say the victim has identified, like fell for the scam. They're going to go to the bank and withdraw money and then send it to the scammer. The scammer will stay on the phone with the victim the entire ride to the bank, right? Let's just say it's a 20-minute ride, whatever, or 15, whatever. They'll stay on the phone the whole time with them. Once they get to the bank, they'll tell the victim to either keep the phone in their pocket or kind of loosely put it to their ear, but they'll stay on the phone with the victim while they're at their bank because they want to hear the conversations that they're having. And what they also want is they want to make sure that the victim does not talk to any loved ones in the meantime. Because what might happen is that the victim might say like, oh, this doesn't seem right. Let me talk to someone that I trust, like my daughter, my son, or my my mom. And they give them a call and they're like, no, that's a scam. You shouldn't do that. They want to avoid that, right? Yeah. So yes, that's another red flag. If you have someone that's like, hey, we got to do this right now, it's got to be done right now, or you're going to face consequences, and I'll spend time with you on the phone for the next 2 hours, that's a scam. Yeah.
While everyone here likes working in public service, no one wants to spend more than 10 minutes at a time talking to someone on a phone.
Well, especially when you get something like in the mail too, and it's urgent. It's like, this isn't urgent. If you sent this through the mail, no, this isn't going to be urgent. It's going to take forever to get back anyways.
Yeah, my favorite spam mails is I saw this on the internet at some point, is if you look at where the stamp is on a letter, and if it just says anything with like STD in there as standard mail, it's probably a junk mail item of some variety, because a scammer's not going to pay however much his stamp is now, 74 cents or whatever it is now, to genuinely say like, oh yeah, you need to do this right away. It's like, no,
Right.
it's not cost effective to lose $1 for every household you're trying to scam.
Yeah. No, I know when I first signed the mortgage for my house, I think one day I got 6 letters in the mail, all from claiming to be the same company, my mortgage bank, whatever, being like, you need to sign up for this, send whatever. Luckily, my stepfather was the one who got me my mortgage and everything. So I just called him. I was like, is this real? He's like, no, not at all.
No. Open records requests for every house being sold indefinitely.
Yeah. And it was like literally like the week after I had signed my mortgage. It was crazy.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And then what I did.
Wait for the house flippers to start calling.
Oh, yeah. No, but then what I did is they had return envelopes in there. So I just shredded up the mail and sent it back to them because then they have to pay the postage for the return.
You got
Yes, but I like it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sad that we live in a society like that, right?
Yeah, right.
Oh,
And it's sad that it works.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's another thing too, is that like here we are in Southeast Wisconsin. People here are so nice.
Yeah.
Right? Like we want to be trusting. We want to believe that everyone is what everyone is telling us is true. And so we fall for it. And, unfortunately, I think now at times a lot of folks are less likely to be nice and talk to people because they're fearful they're going to get involved in a scam or something to that effect. So, yeah.
It's kind of a problem even with startup businesses too, because you see like people don't trust, like, oh, you have no reliable sales, or so I won't buy from you. So I mean, people are like, I've seen a lot of small businesses like, oh, we have to go to Etsy now and sell our stuff because people trust Etsy, but they don't trust a website that's spun up to do the same product, the same business.
Darn you scammers.
Yeah.
I know we talked about like small businesses and like their vulnerabilities with the checks, but is there maybe like a demographic too that is more vulnerable or that you see common occurrences happening, and maybe why you think that happens?
Well, definitely with I would say the age range between like, let's say retirement age, right? When you start retirement to maybe like the point of like 70, 75 years of age, that is a predominantly high age group in which they fall for they're victims of scams, unfortunately. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. One is loneliness, right? They just got done doing a career. They're spending a lot more time at home. They got a lot more free time. Two, a lot of times they could be a widower, right?
Yep.
So they're alone. They don't have anyone to bounce ideas off of. And then lastly, I think they have a lot of capital. They have a lot of money, right? So they're a good target for these scammers, and maybe they don't have the wherewithal to kind of check to verify some of the things that people are saying, and it's very sad. I've seen very unfortunate circumstances happen with folks in that age group, and it's very, very sad to see that there's people in our world that would take advantage of these people. It's sad, but those folks are I'd say the largest group in which are vulnerable for these scams. I would say the next would probably be the much younger generation in which they're just coming out of college. And the types of scams that they fall for is kind of like the work from home scam or make money quick scam.
Sure.
Maybe they have some culpability too when it comes to these scams because maybe they have an understanding that, yeah, it's probably not legit, but I'm still probably going to fall for it. A lot of times what they'll do is they'll give out their banking information. They'll give out personal identifying information, in which helps the scammer kind of funnel money, right? So like if the money goes from a scam victim that fell for one of the Microsoft scams, that person gave out $3,000. A lot of time this money will be funneled through a different account, which could be held by these other victims, these younger generations where they gave out their financial institutions. So like for me as an investigator, right? So like we talked about before, follow the money, right? So all of a sudden an elderly victim comes to me and says, hey, I sent $3,000 because it's Microsoft scam. How'd you send it? Okay, well, you sent a check. All right, I got to go figure out where the check was deposited. Check was deposited. Let's say it came back to Kayla Smith. That's, a college age student. Well, I go and talk to her. She's like, well, I followed this ad on Facebook and it said that I can work from home. All I got to do is give out my banking information. Okay, well, you gave out your banking information to this scammer and now the money got funneled to your account. Where did you send the money to? Well, I sent it to this cryptocurrency account that they told me to do. All right. So then I got to go and follow that. It's like, it's one of those things where it's just different layers of scamming. And for us, it's kind of a challenge to kind of figure out where this money goes. So back to your original question, number one group right now would be the elderly folks. And then I would say the second group would probably be the younger folks that are just coming out of college that don't have a career yet.
Sure. Yeah. I always hear too, QR codes now are becoming more of a gateway to scam too, because you scan a link and it just takes you wherever. And then from there, it just snowballs too.
And adding on that, it's so easy to take a QR code sticker and overlay it over someone else's QR code. I mean, that's why, we've been looking into QR codes for doing stuff for the city, and it's like, okay, how do we make it that it's harder to replicate? And a lot of the time it's adding that image in there, like don't use a QR code site that just puts the Google, you have no internet dinosaur in the middle, because everyone can make that.
Yeah, that's an excellent point to our listeners too. Like if you're going somewhere and you have to pay for let's say you're paying for parking in a city or something like that, or if you're going somewhere to pay at a restaurant, double check to make sure there's not a sticker over top of that QR code to make sure that you're going to a legitimate site, because you might click on that QR code and it might look legit, but you actually didn't send your money to where you intended it to go. So do your due diligence to make sure that you're actually doing the right thing by making sure that there's no overlay on that QR code.
Because now I'm losing my money and getting a ticket.
Right. Or towed.
Yeah.
Definitely don't want that.
No. So if someone suspects that they've been targeted by a scam or a fraud of some variety, what should they do right away?
If they can, okay. So to your, I'm just gonna maybe change that question a little bit. So let's say if they've identified that they've been targeted by a scam, I would say just stop communication. You know this is a scam, don't respond. Delete whatever you can. Like if it's an email, just delete that person and report it. If it's a text message, swipe it, delete, and then report as junk, right? And then just don't respond, don't engage. A lot of times I'll have people be like, well, I talked to them and I showed them, right? Like, well, you're just wasting your time, right? I would just say just end communication right away if you've identified that you were the target of that scam, right? All right. If you didn't lose any money, no need to really report it to the law enforcement, okay? There's millions of scams going out there. There's no way for us to track it all.
Right.
All right. Now, switch to a second part of the question. Let's just say you identified that you were a target of a scam and you sent money and you lost money in a scam. I would say at that point, notify law enforcement as soon as possible, right? We talked about how we need to follow money to try to find these folks, right? The longer you wait, the harder it is for one, us to return your money, and then two, to even try to locate where the money is going, okay? So if you've identified that you've lost money of a scam, try to notify law enforcement right away. I also really encourage folks to notify a loved one right away. Yes, it's one thing to have communication with us and talk to us about it, but if you talk to someone that really cares, obviously we care about you, but a loved one that really, really cares about who you are and what you're doing, and they can help you out significantly. And I've seen it happen more times than not, where folks, especially if they're elderly and they want to be able to have their own independence, they will try to avoid letting anyone else in their family know. But once they let someone know, once they've told someone what has happened, it's like this weight that's lifted off their shoulders. Right. Like their relatives can come in and support them and help them and go, hey, we're here for you. We can help you. And more times than not, it's peeling off the layers of the onion, and their relatives will actually look into this, dive deeper, and have these long conversations with the victim and identify more that can actually help us out, that we didn't know initially existed. So one, contact as soon as possible, and two, tell someone that you love right away.
Should you reach out to your financial institutions too and see if they can put a stop to it first, or should they?
Yeah. I mean, it depends on the type of fraud that actually happened or the scam. Like, if you identify, if it's one thing if someone hacks into your account, right? Like if you give your personal identifying information out and they're able to access your account remotely, the financial institution should know and they should be able to give you your money back. But if it comes down to a scam where you are the one that withdrew the money. So let's say we'll go back to this Microsoft scam, right? So you fell for the scam. Someone made you think that all your money at your local financial was unsafe. So you went down there and you withdrew your whole bank account, even though the clerk told you not to, and you still did it. And then you sent it to a crypto wallet, or if you sent it to, if you mailed all the cash somewhere, the financial is really not going to reimburse you for those funds. All right. Yes, you can let them know, but there's not a whole lot at that point they can do. Now, let's say different circumstance, same scenario, you fell for the Microsoft scam. They encourage you to send a wire transfer. So you're like, okay, I'll go to the bank. The clerk is still telling me I shouldn't do this because it's probably a scam, but I'm still demanding that they send this wire. Within, let's say within maybe 12 to 24 hours, if you realize you talk to someone that you trust and you realize that that's a scam, if you let your financial institution know, they can maybe do a recall on the wire or the ACH transfer and get that money back to you. Okay. So yes, the faster you do things, usually the more better off you are.
And that's what helps too when you're talking, if you talk with a loved one too, is they help you rationalize a situation. Because I mean, like we had said before, a lot of these scams
they're getting
pressurized. Yeah. I mean, it's like you need to do this now because, the longer you wait, the worse things can get. And talking to a family member just helps you talk to a level-headed person, basically.
Yeah. And I think, and again, a lot of times people are really afraid of losing their independence because of that. They're afraid that the family will take away their ability to handle their own money. And these folks have done this for, 60, 70 plus years. And all of a sudden this happens. But yes, I think that's one thing that we need to understand is a community is that these scammers are so good at what they do. I mean, if they weren't, they wouldn't be making all this money, right?
Yeah.
So they are so good, and they make these victims feel like they can trust them, right? Like they're almost trusting these people more than their relatives. And so we as a community shouldn't make the victims feel worse than they are. Like if we find out that, hey, grandma, grandpa fell for a scam, we shouldn't be like, oh my gosh, what are they thinking? Did they not know this? Well, no, we need to support them, and we need to say yeah, we recognize that could be really hard for them to go through, and we need to support them going through that and not make them feel worse than they are.
Yeah, it's one of those things you can think, but you can't say out loud.
Right.
But it's also a good opportunity to retrain people too. I mean, I think are you starting to see that elderly population is falling for less and less scams as technologies become more ingrained, or is it still kind of happening at a similar rate than 10, 20 years ago?
Yeah, I think I think that the uptick has been happening the last 3-4 years. And I think it's really at a steady level right now. I haven't seen it decline a whole lot. I mean, we do things like this, right? We do public service announcements, things of that nature. But still, these scammers are so good. And and sometimes, we're talking about, a certain scam now. In 6 months, it might be something completely different.
They're adapting to whatever's changing out there. They're getting around whatever systems are being put in place.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know. Even sometimes my girlfriend will come to me. She's like, "Is this real?" And I was like, "Oh, it's not." But the fact that you almost fell for it as a 30-year-old, I'm sure these 70, 80-year-olds, they're completely falling for it too. They just get smarter and better and better. And it's kind of crazy.
It's frightening.
It's frightening.
Yeah.
So someone has now reported they've been a victim to fraud.
Yeah.
When do you come in, and kind of what does that behind the scenes investigation look like?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we kind of already alluded to it just a little bit, but if you find out that you've lost money, they make the complaint, and a lot of times they'll call the non-emergency number, right? And they'll get an officer in a squad car to come and make the initial complaint. It won't be a detective that usually will come out right away. It's not to say that won't happen always, but that's not the typical way that things happen.
There's a lot more officers than detectives.
Yeah, exactly. And then they're the ones that triage the calls that come in, right? So they take the initial report and then they forward it to us. And I would say that yes, we can probably locate where most scam victims' funds go, but it just comes down to time and resources. I mean, that's with anything we do in the police department. A lot of times it's based on time and resources. And sometimes our resources are very limited because some of the things that we need to locate where these individuals are or where this money's gone, it takes a lot of money to do that. And we just don't have an infinite amount of money to investigate this stuff. So behind the scenes, what typically happens is the officer will take the complaint, we'll get it forwarded to us, and typically it depends on how long the scam has occurred. So let's say have fallen for a scam for a period of 6 months to a year. And then you're just reporting to us now, but you've sent money over that period of time. yes, the case is very important. However, it's probably not something we're going to jump on right away, just based on the fact that the money's 6 months gone. Like this isn't something where we're going to be able to jump on and try to get funds back right away. Unfortunately, and I say this a lot to the victims, is unfortunately your money's gone. Like it's not anywhere for us to really get back. As we said before, money moves very fast. 6 months gone, it's not anywhere for us to actually seize it and bring back. But to those cases, what happens is we follow the money. So in those cases, let's just say that the victim sends money to X, Y, and Z. What we'll do is we have to actually write an affidavit, subpoena, because like a lot of these companies and corporations that are financial institutions that hold these funds, they don't just randomly give us information upon request. We have to actually submit a legal process or a court order. And that takes a bit of time too. So once we get the initial case, it might take another 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks to actually get a subpoena or legal request for us to actually get that information, right?
And is that going from like a local, like a municipal level court, or do you have to like submit it to like Milwaukee in the eastern region for that?
Oh, okay. So good question. If we choose that the case is going to go like on a circuit level, like most cases do that we investigate, so that would be Waukesha County. That'd be like the state court, the DA's office, the district attorney's office, right? So most of the time we'll send our subpoenas there. It gets reviewed by the judge. The judge determines there's probable cause that a crime was committed, and then we're investigating it. He'll sign it, and then we send the legal process off to these companies. Now, as you can imagine, like let's just take a large financial like Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, Chase, right? Let's say money goes into one of those larger financials. They don't have the quick turnaround to just like, oh, here's some photocopies of what the records you're requesting and send back to us. It gets shipped off to a different state. Their legal has to go through it, and that takes another three to 6 weeks for them to respond to us. So by the time you report the incident to us, and that's just to follow. I don't know if you remember that example I sent where like the victim sent the money to that one the other person, right?
Yep.
So like that's just one layer. It's going to take me 12 weeks just to find out that the money went here.
Yeah.
Right. And then let's say that person sent it to somewhere else. They layered it again.
You just restart the process again.
Just restart the process again. So that's usually, like I said before, it's just pulling off the layers of the onion, try to figure out exactly where the money goes. But we're able to do it. It's just going to take time and resources, unfortunately.
And with those, is there times where it's like, oh, you're starting to see the same account number this is going to, and you kind of connect cases together into one? And
yes and no. That's one of the you bring up a good point, because there's a federal government agency out there called ic3.gov. It's run by the FBI. It's a website. Let me just repeat that: ic3.gov. It's really important because I think that all scam victims should report their stuff, their incident, to that website, because the FBI actually does track those numbers, right? And I think that's their analysts can kind of go through things. So like the unfortunate part of law enforcement right now is like, if you make a report with the city of Waukesha, we have a records management system that stays within our city. That record management system isn't like shared nationwide. So I can't see like if the same victim down in, let's say, San Antonio, Texas, fell for the exact same scam, sent the money to the exact same account, I will never be able to see that. So there's no way for me to track that. Now, if I send legal response to JP Morgan Chase and it's that same account, they will not tell me like, hey, we're seeing, I have to wait for those records to come back and go, oh, like I've also noticed that there's other money coming into this account from all these other cities. And that's happened before where I'll call those people and be like, hey, did you fall for a scam? Like, oh yeah. Did you report that to law enforcement? No. Or sometimes they do. And it just opens up this can of worms where we're like, okay, now we got to look into this a little bit further.
It turns into a bigger case.
Exactly. So it's, but it's satisfying knowing that I can try to help people out.
Right.
Maybe not the fact that I'm going to get their money back, but maybe hold people accountable that are doing this.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then is there a point where the case gets too big where you have to pass it off to someone else then? Or like up the ladder of the government?
Yeah. No, there are times, not necessarily because it gets too big, but a lot of times jurisdictional issues come into place, right? So like if we find out that the case has a lot of interest from like let's say the East Coast, right? Like let's say the scammers have like a base out there, right? Well, it's not really conducive for us here in Waukesha
Sure.
to start investigating those folks that are out in New York, right? So like there'll be a point where we can have conversations with other locals or even like other federal agencies and be like, hey, this is a big dollar amount. These folks are in your jurisdiction. And then we'll have communication with them and try to transfer the case.
Okay.
So sometimes it happens. Yeah.
Interesting. So I know you kind of mentioned that it's difficult to get the money back, but how successful are you in catching scammers, and how likely is it that people will recover their money when it's lost in a scam? It doesn't sound too super high, but
Unfortunately, no. Like, yeah, the biggest thing that we can see, let me rephrase that. We're able to recover money most of the time if it's like a wire, an ACH, or maybe like a check that was sent, but we find out almost immediately after it's sent. Like those times we can probably get money back. We actually have had good success with getting some cryptocurrency back too. But again, time is of the essence when it comes to those cases as well. It's not the full amount, but it's something.
Yeah.
Right. So like if you identify that you're a victim and you find that out right away, let us know as soon as possible. We can try to help. If we're talking 48 hours, 72 hours, there's I would say like a 95% chance that you're never going to see your money back. Unfortunately. Wow. Yeah. The money moves so quickly. It's so hard. And a lot of times once we find out, after that time frame, we've recognized that a lot of times the money is already out of the country. It gets layered through different accounts. It gets moved so quickly. And by the time we actually find out where it goes, like I can't tell you how many times I've actually seen on like a response that I get back. I'm like, okay, this is where he's going to tell me the money's gone. And it says like Bank of Hong Kong. Like,
and it's gone.
Yeah. Dead end. Right. It's frustrating. So yeah, I would say like if you're reporting it 72 hours after you sent the money, most likely 95% of the chance it's gone. And that's the same to say, like, we've also seen an increase in like gift card scams too, where like you'll get a pop up on your computer, or you'll get an email or a text message, hey, we need you to go purchase these gift cards, these Apple gift cards. And what typically happens with those is like, you'll go and you'll buy the gift card, you'll scratch off the back, and then you'll give the number to the scammer on the phone. And then they take the money from your card and they put into this virtual bank, right? What they do actually is they actually end up selling the gift card on like the black market to somebody else.
You get the entire code sold online.
And so like a lot of times you'll have these victims say like, well, can't you figure out who used the card? I'm like, yes, but the person that used the card isn't the person that scammed you. So it's kind of hard to show culpability to that particular person, that does it. So there's so many different challenges that come to these things. So unfortunately, when the money's gone, it's gone. But that doesn't mean that we can't investigate and try to hold people accountable, that did this. Even if they launder the money, like we talked about, like how it gets layered in different accounts. Sometimes a lot of those folks are actually like culpable, like they know what they're doing. They intend to launder these funds. And we can go after those folks too to try to eliminate the easiness for people to scam people.
Right. If you cut off one of the Hydra's heads, it won't grow back necessarily at that point.
Slow it down a little bit.
Yeah.
So I know some of the common mistakes we talked about were, especially like in the older adults, not sharing the information, kind of hiding it or being a little bit ashamed of it. But are there other common mistakes people make after realizing they've been scammed?
Yeah, I've seen it too, where like people will understand that they know that they've been the victim of a scam, and they'll actually they'll almost send more money in hopes to get the money back. Cause like the scammer will be like, well, if you just do this, I'll give you your money back. Like, so yes, once you've identified, just don't send any more money. And then we talked about this before, just don't communicate anymore. Because if they've already convinced you to send X amount of money, they might convince you to do something different, right?
Yeah,
so just stop communication. So those are some of the things I've seen.
Yeah. Delete it, block them, do whatever you can to get rid of them.
Yeah, exactly.
So, as technology's kind of grown, we're seeing technology in the hands of kids more, especially school-age kids. So how can parents help their kids avoid being targeted by online scams, text scams, things like that?
Yeah. Boy. online is a dangerous place for a child. I would say, as a parent or a guardian, I mean, your job is to really monitor what they're doing. Like, I'll give the analogy, like if you go to a park with your toddler, you're not going to just like drop them off at the park and just drive away. Like, you're going to stay with them, monitor what they're doing, make sure they're going down the slide okay, make sure they're going upstairs. Like, it's got to be the same with a device. I mean, like when you give your teenage a device, they literally have the whole world at the tips of their fingers, right? So we need to make sure that we know what they're doing. Set up parental controls, make sure they're not able to communicate with people, that they don't know who they are. Make sure that they don't have the ability to send and receive money. Make sure they have the ability not to send or purchase anything from their cell phone. So it's got to be on us as adults to be really responsible for what our kids are doing. Obviously, as parents, maybe be like a co-signer on their account if they have one, to make sure that you can monitor what they're doing. Those are it's a dangerous world, not only for like scammers, but there's a lot of things that could happen in a negative way with devices, with young children and young minds exploring, trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
So
yeah, on the plus side, I mean, when we go down to the Know Before's conference every year, or almost every year. And KnowBe4 is one of the largest providers of cybersecurity in the U.S. And one of the big reasons I trust them a lot is there was a conference, I don't know if it was a NATO conference or what it was, they were trying to determine if there should be a cybersecurity board. And they said, oh, we could have Microsoft and KnowBe4 be on this board. And China and Russia said, no, we won't have them be on the board because they're some of the largest cybersecurity attackers at this point.
Wow.
It's like, yeah, this is our major part of our economy, so we don't want these two very trusted sources of protecting from viruses, protecting from cybersecurity. But with KnowBe4, there's so many schools that are actually, especially with the advent of, oh, your books are all on your laptop. Like, they're doing cybersecurity training in school as part of like the requirement. Like, in order to have this Chromebook, this laptop, whatever it may be, you have to do cybersecurity training of what to watch out for, how to find phishing emails, scams, stuff like that.
That's great. It's got to be relevant too to the kids. Like they gotta take it seriously too.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So sometimes scams involve impersonating authority figures like police, government, all sorts of different agencies or banks. How should residents verify if a call or message is legitimate?
First thing is, don't trust a telephone number that is on the caller ID. That can be spoofed 100%. Next thing is, go back to those red flags. If they're pushy, if they want to do something right now, it's got to be done immediately. Just hang up. Like, as an investigator, I've been hung up on the phone so many times, and it never makes me angry.
Yeah,
because I'm like, oh, well, you're just doing your due diligence to make sure it's heck. What I tell folks is, like, if you don't trust me when I'm calling you, just hang up and go find the number for yourself that's legit, and then call my department and then ask for me, right? And then that's a good way. So, like, if you receive a call and it looks like it's from the authorities and they're telling you to get a warrant for your arrest, and if you don't pay right now using Apple gift cards, we laugh, but it happens.
Yeah, it does.
Then what you should do is you should hang up, call the agency that they said they're from, like find that number yourself. Don't trust any number they gave you, and call them and say, hey, I just received this phone call, and see what they say. If they say like, oh yeah, whenever a detective was trying to call you, okay, well, that's probably not likely, but they'll say, yeah, you've probably fallen for a scam. And to that point, like, a government agency will never ask for payment in the form of a gift card.
Yeah.
Like, that just doesn't happen.
It's not a good choice. Yeah, check.
Yeah.
Money orders.
Right.
Actually, I don't even think we even do money orders anymore.
No.
I think it's ACH or check for 99% of everything.
Yeah. So, that's what I would say about that.
Sure.
Yeah. So how are you seeing that scams are evolving? I mean, we touched on this a little bit, that scams are changing almost daily at this point. So we know that they are evolving, but what kind of things are you seeing on the horizon that people can keep an eye out on of how to not fall for potential scams of the future?
Boy, I think the biggest thing right now is just to be proactive when it comes to your personal identifying information, your credit. I would recommend that everyone lock their their credit down with the 3 credit bureaus: Contact, Equifax, TransUnion, Experian. There might be a small fee. There you got to remember like a PIN, but please do that. That way that no one can open up accounts in your name, and you just know like you have peace of mind that you're not going to have like an outstanding debt for a couple $1,000s because someone opened up a loan in your name 5 years ago. That's just being proactive, watching that, and then like with your banking information, making sure that you're monitoring exactly what's occurring. You're not seeing these small transactional fees that you have no idea what it's about. Making sure you're looking into that. Just being proactive on that front, and then be very thorough when you're investigating any sort of investment and or like work employment, right? So like if it's too good to be true, it is. Like it doesn't exist. Like you have to work to get something in return.
Yeah.
You have to put some sort of effort in. If someone just wants your banking account information, it's not legitimate. Okay. And the reason I say that is because we've seen these cryptocurrency investment scams where, it's like, all right, you're going to make, 15, 20% off of your investment, and turns out to be a scam. So these are some of the things we can do to be proactive, is just monitoring your credit, monitoring your banking account, and then being very thorough when investigating or like looking into any sort of future employment.
Are you seeing anything with AI, other than scammers now getting a little more creative in how they're writing things and, things with deep fakes? Have you seen anything really with that kind of rearing its head?
Anecdotally, we've seen things where like, yes, scammers are going to use like different people's voices to call and make that scam. I haven't seen anything come across my desk where we've seen that yet. But I think it's just a matter of time where you're going to see AI. You're gonna have someone convinced that no, I talked to you on the phone. You're like, no, that wasn't me. That was artificial intelligence, unfortunately. Sure. So I think that those things are on the horizon. It's just one thing that we just gotta monitor. Yeah.
So what role does the community play in preventing fraud, and how can neighbors help each other stay safe?
Yeah, I think that goes back to kind of what we talked about before, is just making sure that like we maintain that community sense, right? Sure. Like, and when I talk about community, it's not just law enforcement in the city; it's the clerks at the bank, it's the clerks at the local Walgreens or the Target, it's your neighbors, it's everyone it's the mail person, right? We all see norms throughout our daily lives. We all see things that are consistent. But if there's something that's not consistent, like we should speak up and say something to that person, right? So like if you see a person come through the line at Target and they're buying $500 gift cards, and it seems completely unnormal for that person to do that. Like you've seen this person shop here before and they've never done this. Like maybe just ask a question like, hey, who are these for? Like, why are you doing this? And then just start a conversation. It goes to, the clerk at the bank, like, hey, I see that you're depositing $2,000. I've seen you come in here quite a bit, but you've never done this before. What's going on? And if you see something, it's just say something. Maybe it's not to law enforcement. Maybe it's to that person, like, hey, you might be falling for a scam. You should really talk to someone you love. Or, hey, maybe you should reach out to law enforcement.
Sure.
We just enacted a new law that Wisconsin did a couple months ago, in which financial institutions can contact a trusting or a loving person that's associated with their account. Where, like, let's say they see something that's suspicious, the bank can actually contact someone that it's like a trusted individual on their account, and they can have that conversation. Before they weren't able to communicate with someone, but that person that is on that financial institution has to put that trusted individual on there. So there's hurdles we have to overcome. But I think to your question, it's like we need to be okay with having conversations with folks and like looking out for individuals, right?
Yeah.
Like
knowing what the scams are so you can help someone else be preventative.
I mean, like you guys in your positions, you see these things, you go to these conferences, you have this training that we get as the city of what is it called? Know before. Yeah. Like maybe like there's other folks that don't know that. Like we go to a Christmas party with our family and like they have no idea, right? Just having conversations with people. I think that's how we can get the word out.
Yeah.
And even though, I mean, gosh, this has been 10, 15 years ago, we were running an event at Carroll, and part of the prizes were, hey, we need a bunch of $50 Visa gift cards. So we go, we went to go buy them, and over on the Walmart over on West, I think, and they're like, "Hey, are you buying this for a scam or something?" I'm like, "No, we're using it for
That's
prizes."
great.
And
I love it.
I was banking with Chase at the time. They shut down my account at that time because like, "Hey, you're trying to buy like $500 worth of gift cards. Is this, what's going on here?" So
It can be a little bit of an inconvenience, but at the same time, it's for a right reason.
right. I mean, if it was a scam, that's 2 roadblocks that would have stopped me
Yeah.
from paying someone. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good to see.
Meant a good thing. So it's happening out there. And I know I feel like the Walgreens right here next to City Hall. I've seen that happen before. Someone's like, "Oh, I'm supposed to buy gift cards." Like, no, you don't need to be buying gift cards. Like, here's the reason why, and just talking someone through it. And so there's plenty of people who are on the plus side. The community's reinforcing it. It's as long as people are aware of it. So if someone is listening today can learn just one thing or share with just one thing with friends or family members, what should that be?
Assume anyone that is asking you for money that you don't know is a scammer unless you can prove otherwise. If someone's asking you to send money, assume it's a scam.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I would say.
Yeah, I think 99 out of 100 times that's probably accurate.
Right.
Especially, I mean, I think the big thing that really pops up is around Christmas time that everyone gets a little more wary of like, oh, everyone's asking for, here, it's our Christmas pledge drive and things like that. Do you see a lot of like things peaking up around holidays where scams kind of get a little more close to home?
Yeah, and I think too, people are more giving around that time of frame too. So like, there's the ability to just send it, but yeah, you do see things that pop up more often.
Yeah, especially during that time of year too. I feel like I get a lot of text messages that are like, "Hey, your package got lost or got delayed. Send us this information and we'll help you find it." So yeah, definitely that holiday
and
season.
around elections, would you like to donate to our campaigns? I'm like, okay, I don't know who you are, don't know how you got my information.
And did you notice that your car registration is always expired? Oh, my tolls.
Oh yeah,
I got to pay my tolls even though I didn't go across the state line.
If you never use iPass, but you got overdue tolls all of a sudden.
Yeah.
That was a doozy for a while.
Yes.
Is there a good place that if does that let's see if I find IC3 website, does that have like common scams that people are seeing kind of out there? Be it text scams, is that a good place to kind of use as a resource of things to watch for?
Yeah, and they can go there. That's more of a reporting system. Like the Department of Consumer Protection through the state of Wisconsin, that's a really good, they have a lot of resources on there you can look for. So if they're looking for resources and places to go to kind of maybe educate themselves some more, go to the Wisconsin Department of Consumer Protection and Agriculture. They have a lot of good things out there that people can look at and read up on. They can also call us if they have any questions specific. If they're like, "Hey, that doesn't seem right," I always tell people you can call us. We can help you. Not necessarily that we would look into it and do an investigation, but if you're like, "Hey, I have a question to see if this is legitimate or not," we can kind of steer in the right direction.
Just get some advice, get some insight into, does this sound right? Does this not sound right?
Yeah.
Or what the next step should be before I pay
Exactly.
anyone. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for all your insight and how to keep everyone safe from fraud. And do you have anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
No, I really appreciate you having this and having this conversation. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
And that's a wrap for another episode of Talkin' Waukesha. We hope you enjoyed diving into the heart of our city with us.
If you have a story to share or just want to say hello, reach out to us on social media at City of Waukesha on Facebook. We love hearing from our listeners.
Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review if you enjoyed the conversation. It really helps us spread the word.
As always, thanks for tuning in to Talkin' Waukesha, where every conversation springs to life.